Hello everyone, AUDHD here, or you can call me Jordan, that's my actual name. I started off this channel just to try and create some sort of information loop between ADHD and autism, and I think I got off on the wrong foot around it, and to be quite honest, I think, ironically, the video that I'm trying to make here is kind of part of what I was trying to avoid in a way. I didn't want to make my videos sound too scripted, too orchestrated, but also I wanted to actually talk what life really is like to have ADHD and autism, and also hopefully in future videos about my son having autism as well. But I wanted to cover, I think, just in detail what it means to actually have ADHD and autism. And I don't just mean the symptoms, I don't just mean the medication, I mean everything around it, how it changes your life, how it changes your health. There's a lot of things that went on with me long before I even knew I was neurodiverse that I just didn't have answers for, to be honest. Things such as anxiety, depression, such common subjects, but I still think, to be quite honest, they get completely misrepresented, or unfortunately because there's such a high usage of people using antidepressants that it can stop becoming the norm. And I don't think you realise how many people are actually suffering, and I mean suffering. I know we suffer, there's a lot of people suffering with stress and anxiety out there at this moment in time, and I completely understand why, but that's everybody's kind of opinion as to why that's happening. But I want to say that I've suffered with it now for going on probably around 12, 13 years, potentially longer, but it became much more noticeable as I probably went through adolescence and becoming an adult myself. And I think I just want to cover it more so because a diagnosis for ADHD and autism doesn't just validate the fact that you are neurodivergent, it also validates everything else that you've actually gone along with in life. The reason why social issues were a thing, why you struggled with other people potentially. I'm just going from my experience, yours might be different, but struggled in society, why you struggled through work, why you struggled through trying several antidepressants and none are doing anything for you, Even on the topic of that, I've been through several antidepressants of different categories and I become sensitive to each one of them. Every one of them gives me side effects. Every one of them leads me down the same path. And I read other success stories around, they've tried a couple, and I know they're trial and error drugs, but they've tried a couple and they finally got on track where they were 9 months, 12 months later, they didn't need them. It's like, I don't get how that happens, but maybe now I do. Maybe it's because of the neurodivergence as to why this is happening, why I'm so sensitive, why I have so many comorbidities around this condition, Another one for me has been migraines. I've suffered with migraines since my mid-20s, probably going on now for about 7 or 8 years, and these have just got progressively worse. Some of them can be around stress, some of them can just be around day-to-day activities, some of them can be just around sensory issues, light, especially for migraines. And I just thought it was something that everybody dealt with, not necessarily migraines, but the sensitivity to light, the noise, the overwhelmed. I just thought that was just part of living in a faster paced society, a more overwhelming society. And partially I think it is, not just for divergence, for typicals as well. I think for everybody, life can sometimes be a bit too much. I think too much is bombarded at you with news, social media, with what's expected in life. It's overwhelming, and I do genuinely think that you have to learn to step away from that. I use Reddit and YouTube at most. I tried TikTok, even just to start this account, and to be honest, I can't get on with it. I can't get on with the short form media. I've tried doing some on this channel. I'm not saying I'll give up it, but at the same time, ironically, despite having ADHD, I can't get on with the short form media. It's taken away the tension even more, and a lot of the content becomes just very unfulfilling brain rot, if I'm being honest. That's my take on it. If some people enjoy it, that's you, and I'm glad you can get something from it. For me, a lot of it, I realise that it's just making me feel worse. It's making my anxiety worse, it's making my divergence worse, and I need to step away from that. Another thing I can say and cover is like tics. I believe that I've had tics since about 6-7 years old. Growing up, I was always just told they were bad habits, kind of something that you kind of snap out of, something I'm doing wrong, which later on in life, to be quite honest, has just only made my self-esteem even worse. It's made my anxiety worse, because I still have them to this day. It may seem like now that I'm fine, I'm holding them in, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I hold the tics in. Sometimes they get worse. Some days they feel a little bit better. Stress completely exacerbates them again. They come out in different forms. They come out in like movements, blinking, noises, grunting, and they've been an annoyance throughout my life, and I've had to try and cover them up many times. And I can guarantee you, once this video is over with, that they will all just come out. And in between potential cuts in this video as well. I think that I've led to such a broken down nervous system. My nervous system is shot completely. I get ill so easily. My immune system is terrible. If it's currently winter as I'm filming this, and if you're watching this at this current time, but I can guarantee if there's a bug, I will get it. A couple of years ago, I ended up with gastroenteritis, really bad. And moving on 2 years later, I've got to the point now where not only am I burnt out, but I'm now making an active approach towards chronic fatigue referral, ME. I've spoke to my GP. This has gone through saying that I've potentially got ME, potentially fibromyalgia, because I'm also in pain a lot. I take constantly a tricyclic, I think, antidepressant. It's nortriptyline, and that has helped with pain management a little bit. I had to recently do a swap over with medication, and if I'm being honest, I didn't realise how much those medications were helping me in the pain management side of things, because when I swapped over, I was in pain in my stomach, in my chest, random numbness, pins and needles, going up to the lead up of other things within it. I get post-exertional malaise really badly. I can do something quite intensely or intensive. For example, I just tried to put some shelves up not long ago, and for about 2 or 3 days afterwards, I was completely shot. I feel ill. I get sore throats. I feel more run down. I feel more stressed. I get out of bed and I instantly suffer with dizziness. Getting up in the morning can take me an hour to really come round. I just thought, again, that was just grogginess from people. It isn't. That's not normal. People do struggle to come round, obviously. Everybody gets the morning blues and stuff like that, and struggles, especially when the weather's turned into winter and it's a little bit more dark and humid. Humid? Could be humid if you like, but a bit more dark and dismal outside, especially in UK. Because we have shorter days and longer nights. So that's a factor for everybody again, but it's not a factor to be waking up feeling dehydrated, feeling I've got headaches, feeling like I'm suffering with hypertension. I've been down this path, I've read it all, I've listened to it, spoken to my GP around it, and it's all leading to the same thing. And if you think about it, they all have a knock-on effect to each other. I genuinely think, in my opinion, and for what I've seen, that a shot immune system, a shot central nervous system, and the vagal nervous system all leads to your body becoming broken. And I don't want to say this is something that can be fixed or not. For myself at the moment, I'm not seeing that, but I'm trying. I really am trying. Currently through therapists, through medication. I've just recently started ADHD medication, which I may do a later video on around, but I think that genuinely one thing leads to another. I think the stress leads to potential problems with the gut. I know there is the brain-gut connection, but I just mean that it leads into IBS, which I've been also diagnosed with. Leads into pain, just random pains in your body. Leads into poor sleep, which is obviously a common thing with ADHD and autism, but I think it even gets worse with it sometimes. Constantly fatigued. I think you just always feel like things can get worse, and unless something gets better and you get treatment early, it piles up. It really does pile up, and I don't think it's something that's spoken about enough. I think it's too much of a perception, especially at this moment in time, that everybody's getting ADHD and everybody's getting diagnosed with it. Like, if you've done your research around it, you know that it's because there's been such a adaptation around these neurodivergences that in the past 20, 25 years, they've become such more prevalence, being diagnosed together in adults, in women. And I think that, unfortunately, the system is getting completely overwhelmed, should I say. We're the ones that's getting underwhelmed because there's no support out there. There's no help around it. We're just chasing things. Referrals are taking months, if not years, especially if you're going for neurodivergence. But just to try and see anything outside of that, any other service, it's taking months up onto years to get an appointment, to get any better, to try and find out what is wrong with you, You don't get random pains for nothing. You don't get stomach pains for nothing. You don't lose weight for nothing. And all these things I've suffered with, all these things I've gone through, and it's been too easy to blame it on anxiety all the time. It's been too easy to constantly blame it on medication side effects, on just you being you. We can't find nothing up with you, and it's frustrating because how many things that I've gone down and read around, and I try not to do the whole self-diagnosis thing, but I also do want to know what's up with me. And there's been so many connections, so many correlations, so many causations that you look at that are so common with ADHD, learning disabilities, sleep disorders, and I mean, even going to one's past just bad practices with ADHD, IBS, brain problems, neurological problems. They are problems with your brain in essence, but it's a lot of things that basically just aren't spoken to you. They aren't told you, and it's not till you go down the rabbit hole a lot of times that you go, hang on, this person's got tics, and this is quite a common thing with ADHD. This person's got ADHD and they've also got autism, which is quite common with each other. This person then also is on this medication that causes this, and it's nothing. And I genuinely don't think the GPs a lot of times, and this isn't putting the GPs down, I understand some practices are overwhelmed, some places just don't have the knowledge. There's a lot of information that's come out in the last 10, 15 years that I just think a lot of them just don't know what to do. I don't think they understand the consequences of having neurodivergence, or even what it means to have it. I've had to push so much for each referral, for each diagnosis, and I don't think if I did, I'd still be sat here being told I've got anxiety on my 10th antidepressant. I'd still be sat here thinking the pains are just because they're musculoskeletal issues, and potentially some are more. I understand that I have shortness of breath, I have a lot of problems with trying to manage stress levels, but I also don't believe that every single thing that I deal with is just anxiety related. I don't believe that everything anxiety is causing sleep disturbances. I don't believe they're all causing problems with having tic or Tourette's disorders. They're not having problems with having constant migraines. They all link to it, they all exacerbate it, definitely. I'm not ruling that out. And unfortunately, ADHD and autism comes alongside a lot of mental health problems. It does. It's such a high rate of it, and such a prevalence in it, especially for people who are later diagnosed, that it becomes a problem. My son's 6 years old of making of this video, and I can see within him, at the moment, he's only been diagnosed with autism, and he got diagnosed with kind of a 2-year development gap, so he's kind of behind in that sense. Academically, he's doing really well, but in the sense of development and social-wise, I can tell that he's behind. And I don't want to say behind as like putting him down, it's just being factual that he struggles in them areas. And I can tell that anxiety flares up in him. I can see the difference at how he changes, how his mood swings, how his meltdowns happen. And that can only get worse if it's not managed from an early age, and things aren't spoken to you outside of those domains. If you're not spoken to how to manage life, how to manage money, how to just manage expectations of going through life. You're told through school that to get good grades, go to college, go to university, get a job. And you know what? It's not until you realise after school that is such a pit that a lot of people with divergences issues that just can't manage. They struggle. I've struggled all my life with them, and I've always thought that I'm just a failure, which is another rabbit hole we go down, and then it becomes another deep pit of depression and another antidepressant to put you on, another set of CBT, and it's not getting to the root of it all. It isn't getting to the root of why all this is actually happening. And there's also this societal and economical factor, you know. People are struggling in this day and age with money economically. Not everybody, but there is a lot. There's a lot struggling to save, a lot struggling with housing. And on top of that, society is getting so much more fast-paced. Everything's getting busier, everything's getting faster. There's so much more put on people from even from school, you know. There's so much every week that we need to know that goes on at school, that we need to manage, that even just for us as parents can get very overwhelming. Even more so as with us both having like health conditions and our son having autism. It gets a lot, it really does, and it still makes you then beat yourself up in the perpetual cycle of you're not good enough as a parent. You're not doing enough, you know, and it's hard, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We'll admit that, we really do, and we don't always know where to step forward with that. We try our best. We try to make sure our lives are lived the best way possible and stress-free as possible. But unfortunately, that it can't be done all the time. It can't, and a lot of factors of that because of our conditions. A lot of factors of that are societal, and we're expected to present a certain way. And we can't, you know, or we don't deliver because we're not living to society's norms of work and going out and feeling a certain way and doing certain things, because we are struggling so much with life around that aspect. And I might be going off on a tangent and going off topic with this, but the main point I'm trying to make around this is that there's so much around these that you aren't told, you aren't learned. You have to learn them yourself. You have to realise from those, I don't want to say mistakes, but those experiences from life as to why these things are happening. And yeah, it's tough. It really is. And I think it's just a constant fight. You have to start realising, you have to fight for yourself. You do. And for your family and for what you believe in. And this is part of change as well. And part of trying to get people in this world the support and the help they need. And not thinking we're all this weak, like not performing people. It's actually quite the opposite. We're actually very strong people that's getting constantly overwhelmed and struggling to manage what we are being served every single day. But that's my perspective. What's your perspective? What have you dealt with? What have you had to go through? What medications and trials and other diagnoses have you been dealt with that you just didn't think potentially 5-10 years ago you potentially would have, you know? And what are you struggling with now? What is something that nobody's acknowledging you with that you know that you're struggling with now, that I don't want to say it always has to be a diagnosis of something, but is a cause of all of this. So I will just say I'll end the video there. Thank you for watching. Please leave your comments down there, like and subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.